Commander Jake Morrison stood near the large window of the space station, watching ships come and go. The view never got old. Bright stars dotted the black space around them, and colorful lights from passing vessels made the darkness beautiful. He held a glass of something that tasted like fruit juice, but came from a planet he could not pronounce. The New Horizon space station was huge. It had been built by 5 different alien races working together. The result was a strange mix of round halls, square rooms, and corridors that seemed to bend in ways that hurt his head. But it worked. Beings from dozens of worlds came here to talk, trade, and make deals. Tonight was one of those fancy diplomatic parties that Jake had to attend. His job as a human representative meant showing up, shaking hands, or whatever aliens had instead of hands, and being polite. He wore his best uniform, the dark blue one with all the little medals that proved he had done his job well over the years. The main hall buzzed with conversation in at least 20 different languages. Some aliens spoke with their mouths, others made clicking sounds, and a few seemed to communicate by changing colors. Jake had learned to nod and smile at the right times, even when he had no idea what anyone was saying. He noticed her across the room about an hour into the party. She was human, which was already unusual. There were not many humans this far from Earth. She looked young, maybe in her 20s, with brown hair pulled back in a simple style. She wore a plain gray dress. That looked like standard diplomatic staff clothing. What caught his attention was how she moved. While other humans at these events usually stayed in groups, talking loudly and trying to impress everyone, she moved quietly through the crowd. She carried a small tablet and seemed to be taking notes. Sometimes she would stop and listen to conversations, her head tilted slightly like she was really paying attention. Jake watched her talk to a group of tall, thin aliens with blue skin. The Andorians, he remembered. They were known for being very serious about everything, but this young woman had them laughing. Actually laughing. Jake had never seen Andorians laugh before. His curiosity got the better of him. During a break-in, the formal speeches, he walked over to where she stood near the food table. She was picking at some kind of purple fruit that was supposed to be safe for humans to eat. "Excuse me," Jake said. "I'm Commander Morrison. I don't think we've met." She looked up and smiled. It was a genuine smile, not the fake diplomatic kind he was used to seeing. "Lisa Carter. I work in the Cultural Exchange Office." "Nice to meet." "You, Commander. Cultural Exchange? That sounds interesting. What exactly do you do?" Lisa gestured around the room. "I help explain human culture to other species and their cultures to humans. Movies, music, books, food, traditions. Anything that helps people understand each other better." Jake nodded. "That makes sense. It must be fascinating work." "It really is. Every species has such different ways of looking at the universe. Take the Zephyrians over there." She pointed to a group of insect-like beings with multiple arms and large compound eyes. They experience time differently than we do. Their movies last for what we would consider weeks, but they watch them all at once. "Interesting. What about human movies? Do the aliens like them?" Lisa's eyes lit up. "Some do. The action movies are popular with species that have similar adrenaline systems. Comedies are harder because humor doesn't translate well. But science fiction movies are surprisingly popular across many species." "Really? I would have thought they might find our sci-fi too primitive or unrealistic." "You'd be surprised. A lot of our science fiction writers actually did their research. Take a movie like Interstellar, for example. Have you seen it?" Jake nodded. "Yeah, a few years ago. The one with the black holes and time travel, right?" It was entertaining, but some of the science seemed pretty far-fetched. Lisa set down her fruit and turned to face him fully. Actually, that movie got most of the science right. The director worked with real physicists to make sure the black hole visualization was accurate, and the time dilation effects they showed were based on real equations from Einstein's theory of relativity. Time dilation? Jake asked. He had heard the term before, but was not sure what it meant. When you're near something with strong gravity, like a black hole, time moves slower for you compared to people farther away. In the movie, 1 hour on the water planet near the black hole equals 7 years on Earth. That's not made up. That's real physics. Jake found himself genuinely interested. But how is that possible? Time is time, isn't it? Lisa shook her head. Not really. Time and space are connected. Einstein proved that over a century ago. When space gets bent by gravity, time gets bent too. It's like ... She looked around and grabbed a napkin from the table. Imagine this napkin is space-time. If I put a heavy ball in the middle, it creates a dip, right? That dip is what we call gravity, but it also stretches the fabric of the napkin, which represents how time gets stretched too. As she spoke, Jake noticed that some of the nearby aliens had stopped their own conversations and were listening. A Zephyrian diplomat, one with particularly large eyes, stepped closer. "Excuse me," the Zephyrian said in its clicking musical voice. "Did I hear you correctly? Your species understands the relationship between gravitational fields and temporal flow?" Lisa looked up at the tall insect-like being. "Oh, hello. Yes, we've understood that for quite a while now. Einstein figured out the basics in 1915, and we've been building on his work ever since." The Zephyrian's compound eyes seemed to shimmer. 1915? That is ... impressive. Our own scientists only discovered this relationship 300 of your years ago, and we considered it a major breakthrough. Jake felt a strange sensation in his stomach. Something about this conversation was starting to feel important, though he was not sure why. The movie also showed wormholes, Lisa continued, apparently not noticing the growing attention from nearby aliens. Theoretical tunnels through space-time that could connect distant parts of the universe. The mathematics for wormholes were worked out by human physicists decades ago, even though we haven't built any yet. A crystalline being that Jake recognized as Vorthik drifted closer. The Vorthik communicated by changing the colors in their translucent bodies, and right now, this one was flashing what Jake had learned meant intense curiosity. "Your species has mathematical models for space-time tunnels?" The Vorthik asked through its translation device. "Of course," Lisa said simply. "We call them Einstein-Rosen bridges. The math is pretty complex, but it's based on solutions to Einstein's field equations. Any graduate student in theoretical physics learns about them." Jake realized that more and more aliens were gathering around their little group. The conversations in their immediate area had gone quiet, and he could feel dozens of non-human eyes focused on Lisa, who seemed completely unaware of the attention she was drawing. She was still talking about the movie, completely absorbed in her explanation of the science behind it. But Jake was beginning to understand that this casual conversation might be about to become something much bigger. Lisa reached for another napkin and started drawing on it with a pen from her pocket. Jake watched as she sketched what looked like a funnel shape with lines and symbols around it. "See, this is how a black hole warps space-time," she said completely, focused on her drawing. "The closer you get to the event horizon, the more time slows down relative to observers far away." The movie actually showed this pretty accurately when they landed on Miller's planet. The Zephyrian diplomat, whose name Jake remembered was Kesage, leaned in closer. His large compound eyes studied the napkin carefully. "Young human, I believe there is an error in your calculations. The gravitational time dilation factor you have written here does not account for the rotational effects of the black hole." Lisa looked up at Keseth with a friendly smile. "Actually, you're thinking of a non-rotating black hole, which would be described by the Schwarzschild metric. But Gargantua, the black hole in the movie, was rotating. That means we need to use the Kerr metric instead." She flipped the napkin over and started writing equations. Jake recognized some numbers in Greek letters, but most of it looked like advanced mathematics to him. Other humans had gathered around now too, looking just as confused as he felt. "4. A rotating black hole," Lisa continued. The time dilation is more complex because the spinning creates frame-dragging effects. The movie actually hired a physicist named Kip Thorne to make sure they got this right. He even published papers about the visual effects they created. Kes stared at the equations. His antennae twitched in what Jake had learned was a sign of confusion in Zephyrians. This ... This mathematics is correct. But how do you know this? Our best physicists have been working on rotating black hole problems for decades. Oh, this is pretty standard stuff, Lisa said casually. Kerr solved the rotating black hole equations back in 1963. It's covered in most undergraduate physics courses. The really interesting part is when you start looking at what happens inside the ergosphere. She started drawing another diagram, this one showing layers around the black hole. See, between the event horizon and the static limit, space-time itself is dragged around by the black hole's rotation. In theory, you could extract energy from this region using something called the Penrose process. Dr. Veltar, the crystalline vortex scientist, pulsed with bright orange light. Jake had never seen a vortex display that color before. Through the translation device, Veltar's voice sounded excited and confused at the same time. You speak of extracting energy from rotating black holes as if it is a known technique. Our civilization has theorized about such processes, but we believe them to be impossible to achieve. Lisa looked surprised. Well, we haven't actually built any black hole energy extractors yet, if that's what you're asking. But the physics are pretty well understood. You need to drop something into the ergosphere at just the right angle, and it will come out with more energy than it went in with. The black hole loses a tiny bit of its rotational energy in the process. More aliens were gathering around their small group now. Jake noticed that some were taking recordings of the conversation, while others seemed to be sending messages on their communication devices. The noise level in the room had dropped as more beings stopped their own conversations to listen. The movie also showed tesseracts, Lisa continued, apparently not noticing the growing crowd. That's a way to visualize higher dimensional space. Humans have been working with higher dimensional mathematics for over a century now. A tall, gray-skinned alien with 4 arms stepped forward. Jake recognized the species as Nexari, known for their advanced mathematics. Higher dimensional space? Your species has mathematical frameworks for dimensions beyond the 3 spatial and 1 temporal dimension. Sure, Lisa said, as if this was the most normal thing in the world. We use higher dimensional math all the time. String theory requires at least 10 dimensions, sometimes 11. Kaluza-Klein theory uses 5 dimensions to unify gravity and electromagnetism. It's really quite elegant once you get used to thinking in higher dimensions. She grabbed another napkin and started sketching what looked like a cube, then drew lines extending from each corner. This is a tesseract, or 4-dimensional cube. In the movie, they use it to represent how advanced beings might manipulate space-time to communicate across different points in time. Dr. Veltar pulsed with rapid flashes of blue and white light. Your species has visualization techniques. For 4-dimensional objects? Oh, we have lots of ways to visualize higher dimensions, Lisa said cheerfully. Cross-sections, projections, unfolding techniques. There are even computer programs that let you rotate 4-dimensional shapes and see how they look from different angles. It's really helpful when you're trying to understand the mathematics. Jake felt like he was watching a very polite version of a car accident. Lisa seemed completely unaware that every statement she made was apparently stunning the alien scientists around her. She was just talking about things she found interesting, the way someone might discuss their favorite sports team. Kes made a series of rapid clicking sounds that Jake's translator identified as Zephyrian profanity. Computer programs for 4-dimensional visualization. We have been struggling with 3-dimensional projections of 4-dimensional mathematics for generations. Really? Lisa looked genuinely surprised. That must make things difficult. Here, let me show you a simple technique. She started drawing on a third napkin. this time showing what looked like a step-by-step process for taking a four-dimensional shape and representing it in 3 dimensions. You start with the 4-dimensional coordinates, then you choose a viewing angle in the 4th dimension and project down. It's like making a shadow, but more complex. The crowd around them had grown to at least 30 beings now, representing a dozen different species. Jake noticed that several of them were frantically taking notes or recording everything Lisa said. Some were speaking quietly into communication devices in their own languages. The math is really not that hard once you practice, Lisa continued. Most human engineering students learn techniques like this in their 2nd or 3rd year of university. It's essential for understanding quantum field theory and general relativity. Jake finally understood what was happening. Lisa was not just discussing theoretical physics. She was casually mentioning things that apparently represented major scientific breakthroughs to these alien civilizations. And she had no idea she was doing it. Dr. Veltar's crystal body was now cycling through colors so rapidly that it looked like a rainbow. Quantum field theory? General relativity? These are standard subjects in your educational system? Well, for science and engineering students, yes, Lisa said. You need to understand quantum mechanics and relativity if you want to work with modern technology. Our computers use quantum effects. Our GPS satellites have to account for relativistic time dilation, and our power plants use controlled nuclear fusion. The silence that followed this statement was so complete that Jake could hear the hum of the space station's air recycling system. Every alien in the growing crowd was staring at Lisa with what appeared to be shock, confusion, or a combination of both. Lisa finally seemed to notice the attention she was getting. She looked around at the crowd of aliens, then at Jake, with a slightly worried expression. Did I say something wrong? Jake looked at the crowd of aliens surrounding them. Every single one was staring at Lisa with expressions he had never seen before. The Zephyrines' antennae were vibrating rapidly. The Vortex crystal body was flashing colors so fast it hurt to look at. Even the normally calm Andorians looked shocked. No, you didn't say anything wrong, Jake said carefully. I think everyone is just ... surprised by some of the things you mentioned. Lisa looked confused. Surprised? About what? Basic physics? Dr. Veltar stepped closer, his crystal form now a steady, deep purple that Jake had never seen before. Basic physics? Young human, you have just described scientific achievements that most civilizations in this galaxy consider to be among the greatest breakthroughs possible. I don't understand, Lisa said, looking genuinely puzzled. Are you saying your species don't know about quantum field theory? But you have faster-than-light travel. You must understand quantum mechanics to make that work. The silence stretched on for several seconds. Finally, Kest H spoke, his clicking voice much quieter than before. Our faster-than-light travel uses principles we discovered through trial and error. We can make it work, but we do not fully understand why it works. Lisa's eyes widened. Oh my, that's actually kind of dangerous, isn't it? I mean, if you don't understand the underlying physics, how do you know the technology is stable? A new voice joined the conversation. Jake turned to see Ambassador Threndy, a senior Nexari diplomat known for his sharp mind and direct manner. His forearms were folded in what Jake recognized as a formal posture. Perhaps, Threndy said slowly, you could explain what your species does understand about faster-than-light travel. Lisa looked around at all the faces watching her. Jake could see she was starting to realize this was not a casual conversation anymore, but she still seemed confused about why everyone was so interested. Well, she said hesitantly, we haven't actually built any faster-than-light ships yet, but we have several theoretical frameworks for how it might work. The Alcubierre drive is probably the most promising. Alcubierre drive? Dr. Veltar's translation device made his voice sound strangled. Miguel Alcubierre published the paper in 1994, Lisa explained. The idea is that you don't actually travel faster than light. Instead, you compress space in front of your ship and expand space behind it. The ship itself stays in a bubble of normal space-time, so it never violates the speed of light limit. She grabbed another napkin and started sketching. The math is pretty complex because you need exotic matter with negative energy density to make it work. But the equations are based on Einstein's field equations, so the physics is sound. Ambassador. Threndy's forearms unfolded and refolded in what Jake knew was a Nexari expression of extreme surprise. Your species has mathematical models for space compression. Several, actually, Lisa said, warming to the topic again. The Alcubierre drive, the Van Den Broek modification that reduces the energy requirements, and some newer ideas about using quantum vacuum fluctuations. There's also work on traversable wormholes, though those are even more theoretical. Traversable wormholes? Keseth's antennae were now moving so fast they were almost a blur. More storing wormholes, Lisa nodded. They figured out how to modify the Einstein-Rosen bridge equations to create stable, traversable passages through space-time. You'd still need exotic matter to keep them open, but the mathematics work out. Jake noticed that several aliens were now speaking urgently into their communication devices. Others were taking detailed recordings of everything Lisa said. The crowd had grown to include most of the diplomatic reception, and the formal presentations had apparently been forgotten. "What about energy production?" asked a voice from the back of the crowd. Jake could not see who spoke, but the translation suggested it was one of the reptilian saurians. "Energy production?" Lisa repeated. "What do you mean? How does your species generate power for your cities and technology?" "Oh, lots of ways," Lisa said. "We still use some fossil fuels, unfortunately, but we're moving toward cleaner sources. Solar, wind, hydroelectric, geothermal. Most of our newest power plants use nuclear fusion, though we're still working on making fusion more efficient." The silence that followed was so complete that Jake could hear his own heartbeat. Dr. Veltar's crystal body had gone completely transparent, which Jake had never seen before. "Nuclear fusion?" Dr. Veltar's voice was barely audible through the translator. "Controlled nuclear fusion?" "Well, yes," Lisa said, looking around nervously. "We've had fusion reactors for about 20 years now. They're not perfect yet, but they're getting better. The ITER project and the National Ignition Facility proved that controlled fusion was possible, and we've been building on that work." "Controlled fusion," Kes H. repeated slowly. "The power of stars harnessed for peaceful purposes." "That's one way to put it," Lisa agreed. "It's really just basic nuclear physics. When light elements fuse into heavier ones, they release energy, according to Einstein's mass-energy equivalence. E equals mc squared and all that." Ambassador Threndy stepped forward again. "What other technologies does your species possess?" Lisa looked uncertain. "I'm not really sure what you're asking. We have lots of technologies. Computers, obviously, medical devices, transportation systems, communication networks. Computers?" Dr. Veltar asked. "What kind of computers?" "Well, we have traditional electronic computers, but we're also working on quantum computers. Some of the prototypes can solve certain problems millions of times faster than regular computers. And we've been experimenting with biological computers and optical computers too." Jake watched as more aliens pulled out recording devices. Some were frantically writing notes, while others appeared to be transmitting live updates to their home. "Worlds, quantum computers," Lisa continued, not noticing the growing excitement around her. "They use quantum superposition and entanglement to process information. It's really quite elegant, though the engineering challenges are enormous. You have to keep the quantum state stable while preventing decoherence. Your species understands quantum entanglement well enough to build machines that use it?" The question came from a small, furry alien that Jake did not recognize. "Sure," Lisa said. "Quantum entanglement is pretty well understood. We use it for quantum cryptography too. Completely secure communication because any attempt to intercept the..." Message destroys the quantum state. Jake realized he needed to do something. This conversation was clearly getting out of hand, and Lisa still seemed to have no idea what kind of reaction she was causing. "Lisa," he said quietly, "I think maybe we should—" Commander Morrison. Ambassador Threndy interrupted, with respect. "I believe this conversation has become a matter of significant diplomatic importance. If this young woman is accurately representing your species' technological capabilities, then we may need to reconsider many of our assumptions about humanity." Lisa looked from Jake to the ambassador and back again. "Did I say something wrong? I was just talking about the movie." "No," Jake said softly, "you didn't say anything wrong. But I think you may have said more than anyone expected." Dr. Veltar moved closer to Lisa, his crystal body now pulsing with a steady red light that Jake had learned meant serious concentration. The Vortex scientist's voice through the translator sounded different now, more formal and careful. "Young human," Dr. Veltar said, "I must confess that your claims about your species' technological achievements are difficult to believe. Not because I think you are lying, but because they represent advances that our greatest minds have considered." "Impossible." Lisa looked hurt. "I'm not making anything up. I can show you research papers if you want. Most of this stuff is public knowledge." "That is precisely what concerns me," Dr. Veltar replied. "What you call public knowledge, we call the greatest unsolved mysteries of science." Jake watched as the crowd of aliens pressed closer. He could see representatives from at least 15 different species now, all listening intently. Several were holding recording devices, and he noticed that some were wearing what looked like communication headsets, probably transmitting the conversation to their home governments in real time. "Perhaps," Dr. Veltar continued, "you would be willing to demonstrate your knowledge. I have a mathematical problem that has puzzled the greatest scientists in our galaxy for over 300 years. We call it the infinite recursion problem." Lisa tilted her head with interest. "That sounds intriguing. What kind of problem is it?" Dr. Veltar's crystal body began to glow brighter. "It involves calculating stable energy patterns through theoretical higher dimensional space. The mathematics become infinitely complex because each calculation depends on the results of previous calculations, creating an endless loop that never resolves." "Oh," Lisa said, her face lighting up. "That sounds like a convergence problem in infinite series. Do you have a way I could write out the equations?" Jake felt his stomach drop. He could see where this was going, and he was not sure it was a good idea. But before he could say anything, Ambassador Threndy stepped forward. "Commander Morrison," the Nexari diplomat said, "might I borrow your tablet? I believe this demonstration could be quite educational for all of us." Jake hesitated, then handed over his standard military tablet. It was nothing special, just a basic device that could access the station's computer network and run simple applications. Lisa took the tablet and looked at Dr. Veltar expectantly. "Could you show me the problem?" The Vortex scientist began displaying symbols and equations on his own device, which projected them as holograms in the air above the crowd. Jake recognized some of the mathematical symbols, but most of it looked like incomprehensible complexity to him. The equations filled the air around them, layer upon layer of mathematical relationships that seemed to twist and fold in on themselves. Other aliens in the crowd began murmuring to each other, pointing at various parts of the projection. "These equations describe energy flow through 11-dimensional space," Dr. Veltar explained. "Each term depends on the values of every other term, creating an infinite loop of calculations. No one has ever found a way to solve them." Lisa studied the holographic display for about 2 minutes, occasionally asking Dr. Veltar to clarify certain symbols or rotate the projection to see different angles. Jake could see her lips moving slightly as she worked through the mathematics in her head. "I see the problem," she said finally. "You're trying to solve this as a direct calculation, but that's not going to work because of the recursive nature. You need to approach it as a limit problem instead." She started typing on Jake's tablet, her fingers moving quickly across the screen. The key is to recognize that this is actually a generalization of the Banach fixed-point theorem in higher dimensional space. Instead of trying to calculate each term individually, you can find the convergence conditions that allow the entire system to stabilize. The crowd of aliens grew completely quiet. Jake could hear the soft humming of the space station systems and the distant sound of ships docking, but no one in their immediate area made a sound. Lisa continued working on the tablet, occasionally pausing to think before typing more equations. She seemed completely absorbed in the problem, the way someone might get lost in a crossword puzzle or video game. The trick is to use a modified version of the contraction mapping theorem, she explained as she worked. You have to transform the infinite series into a form where successive approximations converge to a unique fixed point. Dr. Veltar's crystal body had gone completely dark, which Jake had never seen before. Contraction mapping theorem? Banach fixed-point theorem? These are no mathematical principles to your species. Oh yes, Lisa said without looking up from the tablet. That's standard analysis theory. You learn in advanced calculus courses. Stefan Banach developed a fixed-point theorem in the 1920s, and it's been a fundamental tool in mathematics ever since. She continued typing, filling the tablet screen with equations and symbols. Jake noticed that several of the alien observers were now recording not just the conversation, but also the screen of his tablet. The beautiful thing about this approach, Lisa continued, is that it doesn't just solve your specific problem. It provides a general method for handling any recursive infinite series in higher dimensional space, as long as the transformation satisfies certain continuity conditions. After about 15 more minutes, Lisa looked up from the tablet with a satisfied smile. There, I found 3 different solution paths, actually. The first one is the most elegant mathematically, but the second one would probably be easier to implement computationally. The third one is more complex, but gives you additional information about the stability of the energy patterns. She held up the tablet to show Dr. Veltar. Would you like me to explain the derivation? Dr. Veltar's crystal body began flashing rapidly through every color Jake had ever seen a Vortic display, plus several new ones. Other aliens in the crowd were making sounds in their own languages that the translators were struggling to interpret. This is correct, Dr. Veltar said, his voice barely audible. Not only have you solved the problem, but you have identified multiple solution paths and provided a general framework for similar problems. Lisa beamed. It's really quite fascinating once you see the underlying structure. The recursion that was causing the infinite loop is actually the key to the solution. You just have to look at it from the right mathematical perspective. Kes H stepped forward, his compound eyes focused intently on the tablet screen. You mentioned that this mathematics is taught in your educational system. Well, the basic principles are, Lisa said, advanced calculus, real analysis, functional analysis. Students who want to work in theoretical physics or advanced engineering learn these techniques. It's not elementary mathematics, but it's not considered extremely advanced either. Jake watched as the implications of this statement sank in among the alien observers. Lisa had just solved a problem that had stumped the galaxy's greatest minds for centuries, and she was describing the mathematical tools she used as standard university coursework. How long? Asked a quiet voice from the back of the crowd. Have your people been studying these mathematical principles? Lisa thought for a moment. The foundational work goes back about a century, but humans have been building on it continuously. We've made significant advances in the last few decades, especially with computer-assisted proofs and numerical methods. The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of aliens speaking urgently into their communication devices. The silence stretched on for what felt like forever. Jake could see aliens throughout the crowd looking at each other with expressions he had never seen before. Some were speaking quietly in the communication devices, while others seemed frozen. In shock, finally Ambassador Threndy broke the silence. His forearms moved in what Jake recognized as a formal gesture of respect among the Nexari. Miss Carter, The ambassador said carefully, "I believe we need to ask you some very direct questions about your species' capabilities. Your answers may have significant implications for galactic relations." Lisa looked nervous for the first time since the conversation had started. "Okay, but I'm not sure why everyone is so surprised. I'm just a cultural attach. I'm not even a real scientist. Not a real scientist?" Dr. Veltar's crystal body flickered with confused colors. "You have just solved a problem that our most advanced researchers could not approach. What qualifications do real scientists in your species possess?" "Well," Lisa said hesitantly, "I just have a bachelor's degree in physics and a master's in cultural studies. Real scientists have PhD degrees and do original research. They discover new things, not just use techniques that are already known." Jake felt dizzy. Lisa was saying that her level of knowledge was considered basic among humans, below what they considered to be real expertise. Kes Haight stepped forward, his antennae vibrating rapidly. "Your species has individuals with greater scientific knowledge than what you have demonstrated?" "Of course," Lisa said, looking confused by the question. "There are thousands of people much smarter than me. Theoretical physicists, quantum engineers, fusion researchers, artificial intelligence specialists. I just know enough to do my job in cultural exchange." A new voice joined the conversation. Jake turned to see Captain Zex High, a senior military officer from the Reptilian Consortium. Her scales were shifting colors in what Jake knew indicated extreme agitation. "Tell us about your military technology," Captain Zex High said bluntly. Lisa looked uncomfortable. "I don't really know much about military stuff. That's classified information, and I don't have security clearance for weapons research." "What can you tell us?" the captain pressed. Lisa glanced at Jake, who nodded slightly. He figured the truth was going to come out anyway. "Well, I know we have directed energy weapons, but I don't know the details," Lisa said slowly. "And our ships use some kind of advanced propulsion systems. I think they're based on electromagnetic field manipulation, but I'm not sure exactly how they work." "Directed energy weapons?" Captain Zex High's scales shifted to a deep red color. "Weapons that use concentrated light or particle beams, I think." "So," Lisa said, "like I said, I don't know the details, but I've seen references to laser systems and particle beam research in some of the public science journals." Dr. Veltar pulsed with urgent white light. "Your species publishes military research in public journals?" "Oh no," Lisa said quickly. "The military stuff is all classified, but basic research into lasers and particle physics gets published. That's how science works. Researchers share their discoveries so other people can build on them." A small, furry alien that Jake didn't recognize spoke up. "What about artificial intelligence? You mentioned AI specialists." Lisa's face brightened again. "Oh, that's really exciting work. We have AI systems that can beat human experts at almost any game or puzzle. Some of them can write computer programs, create art, even help with scientific research. And we're working on more advanced systems that might be truly conscious. Truly conscious artificial minds?" The furry alien's voice through the translator sounded stunned. "Well, that's still theoretical," Lisa said. "But some researchers think we're getting close. We have neural networks with billions of artificial neurons, and some of them show behaviors that look a lot like consciousness." Jake noticed that more aliens were arriving in their area. Word was apparently spreading throughout the station about this conversation. He could see beings he had never encountered before, probably from ships that had just arrived. Ambassador Threndy spoke again. "What about genetic engineering? Medical technology?" "Oh, we've made huge advances in medicine," Lisa said enthusiastically. "We can cure most cancers now, and we're working on treatments for aging. Gene therapy can fix genetic diseases before babies are born. And we've started growing replacement organs in laboratories." "Growing organs?" Dr. Veltar asked. "Tissue engineering," Lisa explained. You take stem cells from a patient and grow them into whatever organ they need. Hearts, livers, kidneys, even brain tissue for treating injuries. It's really amazing what the medical researchers have accomplished. A tall, blue-skinned alien stepped forward. Jake recognized her as Diplomat Vassara from the Hegemony Council, one of the most powerful political organizations in the galaxy. Miss Carter, Diplomat Vassara said formally, how many human worlds are there? Lisa looked puzzled. Human worlds? You mean planets where humans live? Yes. Well, there's obviously. And we have colonies on Mars and several moons in our solar system, plus mining operations in the asteroid belt. But I think you mean independent planets? Independent planets, yes. Lisa thought for a moment. I'm not really sure of the exact number. Maybe 50 or 60 planets with permanent human settlements, plus research stations and industrial facilities. The colonial administration would have the exact figures. The crowd of aliens erupted in excited conversation. Jake could hear multiple languages being spoken at once with translation devices. Struggling to keep up, 50 or 60 worlds. Diplomat Vassar repeated. In how much time has your species achieved this expansion? About a century, I think, Lisa said. The first colony ships left Earth in the early 2000s, but most of the expansion happened in the last 50 years as our technology improved. A century, Ambassador Threndy said quietly. Your species colonized dozens of worlds in a single century. Is that unusual? Lisa asked. I mean, you have faster than light travel, so I assume most species could spread pretty quickly once they developed space technology. Captain Zek's high scales had shifted to colors Jake had never seen before. Most species take thousands of years to establish even a few colonies. The logistical challenges, the resource requirements, the technological complexity. Oh, Lisa, said, understanding starting to dawn on her face. I think maybe humans approach colonization differently than other species. We tend to be pretty adaptable, and we're willing to take risks that other people might consider too dangerous. Dr. Veltar pulsed with rapid flashes of light. What kind of risks? Well, terraforming hostile planets, building habitats in vacuum, setting up industrial operations around dangerous stars. We have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. When humans need something, we usually find a way to make it work, even if the conditions are difficult. Jake realized that Lisa had just described humanity as uniquely reckless and innovative, compared to other galactic civilizations. Based on the reactions around him, this was not necessarily a comforting revelation for the alien representatives. Miss Carter, Ambassador Threndy said slowly, I think we need to arrange a much longer conversation. The next 3 hours passed in a blur of emergency meetings, urgent communications, and very serious conversations. Jake found himself sitting in a conference room with the highest-ranking diplomats from 12 different species, while Lisa sat beside him looking increasingly worried. I really didn't mean to cause any trouble, Lisa said for what felt like the 100th time. I was just talking about a movie. Ambassador Threndy, who had taken charge of the emergency session, gestured with 2 of his forearms in what Jake recognized as a calming motion. Miss Carter, you have not caused trouble. You have provided information that we desperately needed to know. But everyone seems so upset, Lisa said. Dr. Veltar, whose crystal body had been cycling through worried colors for the past hour, spoke up. We are not upset with you, young human. We are upset with ourselves for making such significant miscalculations about your species. Jake had been listening to the discussions with growing amazement. It turned out that the galactic community had classified humanity as a developing species with limited technological capability. Their trade agreements, military assessments, and diplomatic protocols had all been based on the assumption that humans were primitive newcomers who needed guidance and protection. The problem, explained Captain Zexhai, is that your government's representatives have consistently downplayed your technological achievements. We believed you were being modest about minor advances, not hiding revolutionary capabilities. Jake winced. He knew exactly why human diplomats had been understating their capabilities. The official policy was to avoid alarming other species or making them feel threatened by rapid human advancement. Apparently, it had worked too well. So what happens now? Lisa asked nervously. Diplomat Vassara from the Hegemony Council leaned forward. Now, Miss Carter, we must completely reevaluate our relationship with humanity. Your species is clearly far more advanced than we realize. Advanced how? Lisa asked. I mean, you have faster-than-light travel and we don't. You've been exploring the galaxy for thousands of years. Yes, said Dr. Veltar, but we achieve faster-than-light travel through trial and error, without understanding the underlying physics. You have developed theoretical frameworks that explain not just how it works, but how to improve it. Ambassador Threndy nodded. Your mathematics, your science, your technology, your rate of expansion, these indicate a level of capability that we associate it only with the most ancient civilizations. But we're not an ancient civilization, Lisa protested. We only developed spaceflight about a century ago. Exactly, said Captain Zexhai. That is what concerns us. Most species take thousands of years to achieve what you have accomplished in decades. Jake could see that Lisa was finally beginning to understand the implications of everything she had revealed. Her face had gone pale, and she kept glancing at him with worried expressions. Are you saying that other species are afraid of humans? Now? She asked quietly. Not afraid, Ambassador Threndy said carefully. But certainly more cautious? We need to understand your intentions and capabilities much better than we do. Dr. Veltar's crystal body shifted to a warm golden color. However, there are also tremendous opportunities here. You're mathematical, and scientific knowledge could help solve problems that have puzzled us for centuries. Really? Lisa looked hopeful. The techniques you use to solve the infinite recursion problem alone could revolutionize our understanding of higher dimensional physics, Dr. Veltar continued. And your approaches to fusion energy, quantum computing, and artificial intelligence represent major advances over our current methods. Captain Zexhai added, your medical technologies could save millions of lives across the galaxy. And your rapid colonization techniques could help species that have been struggling to establish new settlements. So this is good news? Lisa asked. It could be very good news, said Diplomat Vassara, if we can establish proper cooperation. Agreements. Ambassador Threndy stood up, a formal gesture among the Nexari. Miss Carter, I would like to offer you a position as the first human chief science liaison to the Galactic Alliance. Your job will be to help establish research partnerships between human scientists and researchers from other species. Lisa's eyes widened. Really? But I'm not qualified for something like that. I'm just a cultural attach. You are exactly qualified for it, Dr. Veltar said. You understand both human science and how to explain it to other species. That combination is extremely rare and valuable. Jake smiled at Lisa's shocked expression. I think you should take it. You've already proven you're good at the job. But what about the diplomatic problems I've caused? Lisa asked. You haven't caused problems, Ambassador Threndy assured her. You have revealed problems that already existed. It is better for us to know the truth about human capabilities than to continue operating under false assumptions. Over the following weeks, Jake watched as the entire structure of galactic diplomacy shifted to accommodate the new understanding of human capabilities. Trade agreements were renegotiated. Defense treaties were updated. Research partnerships were established. Lisa threw herself into her new role with the same enthusiasm she had shown when discussing movies. She organized joint research projects, established exchange programs for scientists, and created educational materials that helped alien researchers understand human scientific methods. 3 months later, Jake attended the opening of the first Interspecies Science Academy, located on New Horizons Station. Lisa had been appointed as the director. and she was giving the inaugural lecture to a mixed audience of human and alien students. "Today we're going to start with something simple," Lisa said, standing in front of a holographic display. "Where?" "Going to watch a human movie called Interstellar and discuss the real science behind it." Jake watched as students from a dozen different species took out their recording devices and prepared to take notes. In the front row, Dr. Veltar's crystal body glowed with excited anticipation. "The first thing you need to understand," Lisa continued, "is that humans have a saying, science fiction is just science that hasn't been built yet." She pressed a button, and the opening scenes of the movie began to play on the holographic display. This movie shows black holes, time dilation, and higher dimensional physics. All these concepts are real, and the mathematics behind them are actually quite elegant once you understand the underlying principles. Jake smiled as he watched. Alien students frantically taking notes on concepts that Lisa still considered basic knowledge. The young woman who had started a galactic diplomatic revolution by discussing a movie was now teaching the next generation of researchers from across the galaxy. As he left the lecture hall, Jake could hear Lisa explaining the differences between theoretical and applied physics to a fascinated audience of beings who had traveled from dozens of worlds to learn from her. The universe had become a much more interesting place, and it had all started with a simple question about a science fiction movie.